Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel. I'm back for another preview, this time looking ahead to the last away game of the season. It's always a bit of a momentous occasion, people in fancy dress. One person who, I don't know, maybe in fancy dress, maybe not, being their last home game of the season, is going to be Hannah from the SK3 TV podcast. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm good, but I'm excited that you're doing fancy dress. As a club, we've never got into this. Hartlepool used to do it when we were back in the day. Pools used to do it for their last away. I didn't even know it was a thing, but now I remember seeing pictures of Gaz. Yes.
So Gaz did it up at Morecambe a couple of years ago for his. He worked it in for his ag do as well. There's normally you'll normally get maybe 20 to 30 of the regular away fans that will dress up in fancy dress. It's always a good laugh. There's always obviously plenty of beer flying as well.
And is there a team? Or is it
I don't believe that there is one this year. Sometimes there is. It's all very unofficial. Sometimes there is, but I don't believe there is one. And also, I think there's a little bit of kind of excitement at going back to Wedgley Park for the first time in a good few years as well. People very much looking forward to that. I bet that must sound really weird for you to hear that as well, doesn't it?
No, I was just thinking that they'll all change their minds. I've not seen the weather forecast for Saturday, but you're in the railway end, which is fairly tin pot, as much as I hate the term. There's no roof. Good luck to you all. You can bask in the reflected heat from the ridiculous size scoreboard that we have. There's that. We've changed pie suppliers this season, so I can't even advocate for the pies. They're not as good as they used to be. So maybe eat before you can. No, they're not that bad, but they're not as good as they used to be.
So there I am saying that people are going to be looking forward to this, and you literally just tried to, quite frankly, shit on your own club here.
Just managing expectations. And it's really funny because obviously I talk to a lot of away fans as part of previews, and I would always be like, right, this is the rules for the pies. You need to get there early. Don't wait until half time. They are really, really good. But the issue is that they were taking too long to warm up because they're really thick and really kind of well filled, and they couldn't heat them. Like if they ran out before half, like at the beginning, they couldn't heat them up enough. So they've gone now. We have HMP pasties, which are a social enterprise, ex-offenders that are doing these pies. The Jamaican jerk chicken is the best. There's also meat and potato and cheese and onion, but they're just not as nice as the old Great North Pie Company, and I miss them desperately.
If it's not steak and ale, it's not a pie.
Well, no. I would recommend there's Levis Shawarma on Castle Street if you're feeling brave, and not Levis Shawarma. It's beautiful, but Castle Street can be a bit spicy before games. So, but that's my top food tip for the local area.
So I think that's probably one of the first times on a preview this year we've had a food review before we go on to. Yes. And you know what? We normally end up talking randomly about food on the main podcast. So I think it's probably quite fitting that we've managed to get it into the last away preview of the season as well.
Well, I always I get gaslit by people who'll be like, oh, we've got this, and this, and this. And then they don't realize that it's just in their home end, and their away end is, I get really excited and then disappointed. Not that my football experience revolves around food, but it is a very important part.
Yeah, well, it is. No, I'm with you. Absolutely. Now, away from the food, as much as, because now I'm really hungry and I haven't eaten my dinner yet. Let's talk about the football, and let's talk about what has been a pretty spectacular season for you guys. Sat up in 5th in the playoffs, you are easily, obviously, confirmed playoffs. There's an outside chance of automatics, although you're shaking your head. When you're looking at it, 5 points behind with 2 games to go, you would be a little bit silly to be predicting anything kind of more than playoffs at this point. But you'll always want that kind of in the back of your mind ever so slightly, don't you? That there is always the little chance. But 5th place, you said to me before we started recording that you've not really cared this year, in the sense of this has been a bit of a free hit and you're just really enjoying the ride. Is that the feeling, I guess, first of all, amongst the wider fan base? Was there an expectation of, actually, we want to be fighting up and around the top? Was there an expectation of, we want to be fighting anywhere where Wrexham are? What was the kind of expectation for you guys when you did come into League One this year?
You can't mention fighting and Wrexham in the same sentence. So there's so much history, and it's a ridiculous rivalry. It's been called a derby this season. I just, the sooner that we are not in the same league, the better. But I think expectations were hoping for kind of mid-table obscurity. That was revised in the summer. Our recruitment was very quick, but also very confident in that they would talk quite openly about how they got all their first choice players. And we were able to do that given that we knew relatively early on that we would be playing in League One, which is not something that we have necessarily this season. So I remember we took the trophy on a tour around Stockport. And by the end of the trophy tour, so kind of as the season was starting, that mid-table prediction had been revised to maybe 11th. And that would have been quite happy. So I would have been quite happy with that. That said, I've really enjoyed this season. It's felt like there's not been jeopardy. We've been in the top half of the table for most of the season. We were in the heady heights of first for a couple of weeks before Birmingham kicked on, which, let's be honest, they were always expected to do. It just took them, it was fun while it lasted, but it took them a little bit longer. So I think I reflect the fan base as a whole in terms of not having massive expectations going into the season. I think at this stage there is a little bit of, well, there was a little bit of whisper it quietly. And I'm very pragmatic. I'm quite realistic as well, and almost kind of verging on pessimistic. I hated playoffs. That 2 seasons ago, we lost Carlisle in the playoff final on penalties, and it was utterly miserable. And that season was very similar as well, in that kind of going into the last game of the season, there was a chain of events that could have meant that we'd have gone up automatically instead of Northampton. And I think it's very risky to get bought into it. I don't think people are doing that. I am very much not looking forward to playoffs. I know that at some point that jeopardy will kind of sink in, and that what if, and I'm not looking forward to it at all, because I know at that point then I really will care. But up to now, I've just been enjoying the ride and being kind of constantly surprised that we have been where we are, and not getting too disillusioned or frustrated by the losses when they've come. And some of them have been, significant and humbling, so they've been fun. But no, at this stage in the season, I do genuinely think that you have to take your opportunities when they come. Like, who knows who we'll have in League One next season. And now Birmingham have established a blueprint for coming down and going straight back up again, and those clubs that are coming down are likely to be able to throw money at it and just bounce straight back up. So that worries me. We can't rely on being in the same position next year. We've got good squad depth. We've been relatively lucky with injuries. So yeah, I'm very much not in a mindset where I think we should just kind of settle, and neither's the club or the players or the manager. So I guess it's just a wait and see.
Well, like I said to you before we did start recording, you kind of said that you're happy to go along with the ride. Tell me that at halftime in the playoff final if you get there, and let me know whether you still feel in the same way, because, and that's it, isn't it? It is with football. Suddenly all kind of objectivity, all kind of pragmatism goes out the window the minute you you start to feel like it could be something more. And
it's
although it is sort of and it absolutely is, and that's the thing, that taste of championship success in that playoff final. You're not thinking about the bank balance. You're not thinking about what the next 5 years hold. You're thinking about what the next 45 minutes hold, isn't it?
I remember being at Wembley against Carlisle and kind of being stood there and thinking, we're 7 minutes away from League One, and then they scored. Well, I got a text saying, I think that you've got this, and then they scored, and we all know how it ended. And it's the hope that kills you.
It absolutely is, and it's what we all love football for anyway, isn't it? Yes, it can kill you, but it doesn't matter. It's what we love it for. Now, your recent run has kind of been a bit symbolic of the whole season. As in, it's really, really strong. You've lost one game in the past 11, and that was against Wrexham. Again, I've mentioned them again. I feel bad now. A few, obviously, draws kind of scattered around in there, but you are on, like I said, a really good run of form. Now, looking at that, obviously that worries us to an extent, although we're not really playing for anything. So we're kind of just going out and enjoying our football at the moment, which is a very nice feeling to have. But obviously you said that you're doing the same. Do you think the fact that you kind of did make playoffs relatively early, you're not currently really in a fight, do you think it's kind of helped the style of play that you have been kind of playing recently and kind of helped that feeling, not just from within the stands, but also on the pitch? Because we've spoken about it a lot on the podcast over the last couple of weeks, and we're probably playing some of our best football of the season. And it maybe is a little bit because the handbrake's just been off for the last couple of weeks, because we can just enjoy it, and there's no pressure on for us. What's a young squad? Kind of how has it been a sort of similar outlook to you guys, or do you think the pressure's going to start building again over these last 2 games with the playoffs coming in?
I mean, Dave Challoner as a manager is very ambitious. There's this stat that he's never finished lower than playoffs in his managerial career, with the exception of the COVID season. He is at the moment, and Mark Stott, the owner, has said the same apparently, until second is no longer a mathematical impossibility. That's what they're going for. So although our form looks good on paper, it's not been brilliant. We have been conceding goals early and then struggling to come back. We don't, as a team, we don't ever come back from 2 goals down. So, Peterborough on Good Friday was 1-1. Monday was 2-1. I don't think we're playing brilliantly, and Charlie isn't happy with them. Charlie has he's very strategic, and he's very clear at what he wants from the team, and he gets really frustrated with them when he's telling them one thing and he can see that they're doing another. And I've seen lots of that over the last few weeks. These are not easy wins. They're hard fought, dig in wins, which is great. Like, I'm great with it. It's great that we've got that kind of resilience and that tenacity, but we're not making it easy for ourselves. You should be aware that no one, if you beat us on Saturday, you will be the only team, unless Wickham do it on the following week, to have done the double on us this season. No one has taken 6 points from us yet. But we did lose 5-0 to Wickham when we played them, and they looked like Brazil. So, they're a different team. We're a different team now. We've got kind of different players that have come into form. We've lost since we played you last. So I didn't, Lincoln away was one of the few that I've missed this season because I was on holiday. And I was somewhere, when was it, October? Somewhere between the coast of Spain and Florida, because I was on a transatlantic cruise. And I watched it on the club link for and was just, like, great, yeah, we've gone up early, and then just watched it kind of descend into a horror show. And I think, what's changed then, we don't have Louis Barry anymore. He's obviously gone back to Villa. Still weirdly managed to score himself a Young Player of the Year nomination, which doesn't seem right for a lone player who's been in the Championship since Christmas. Otherwise, I think it's just different players coming into form. We don't have Lewis Bate at the moment. He's out injured, and he's been integral, really. I can't remember October. That would you would probably have been. We probably had Ben Hinchliffe there in goal. So Corey Adai is the Ben's poorly. Ben's injured. He's not poorly. So Corey Adai is starting at the moment. He is. He came from Crawley at the end of last season. He's 6'8". He is. I won't say an acquired taste. I love him. But he's certainly got a very kind of entertaining and nerve-wracking style of goalkeeping. And yeah, he has genuinely been brilliant for the last few games, which it's great for him. He said this week that, he knew that coming into a club where goalkeeper is an absolute legend. I mean, Ben's come up with us from National League North. And testament to him that he's playing at this level, and all of that, whereas Corey is the kind of the young one, young usurper. So I think they're the biggest differences since we played you in October. But yeah, it's definite. I don't think our form on paper reflects our performance on the pitch at the moment, so it might be a bit easier than you're expecting, but at the same time they are definitely not settling for playoffs at the moment. Like, while it's still possible, then we go for it.
Which could make it a very interesting game. Now, you said just in that Dave Challoner has got kind of his way that he wants the team to be set up, and kind of it's a style that, the minute the team, by the sounds of it, are kind of straying outside of that or just not fulfilling that, then obviously it's not very happy. Now, talk to us about that style of play, the kind of tactical shape in particular that you kind of look to deploy, and also a little word on Jack Diamond's impact in that, because he seems to be having a really good season with you guys and seems to be loved by quite a few of your fans.
Yeah. Right, we'll do the boring stuff, and then I'll just wax lyrical about Jack Diamond for a little while, which is an indulgence that I'm happy to take on. So formationally, so very possession-based style of play, depending on who's available. Charlie will very much set up dependent on the team, the opposition. So it's not unusual to see 4 or 5 at the back. And then we've been playing recently almost kind of 5-2-2. Does that add up? No, there must be another one somewhere. And yeah, again, it just depends on who's fit. So lots of we signed in the summer, it's really interesting, signed a few players kind of in the wing back position. We don't play with wingers, which was very confusing. But that's, so yes, okay, 4 or 5 across the back, but, a couple of them playing a little bit further forward and really trying to play that ball forward. And that was Lewis Bates' role. When he came in, it was very much, we were conscious that we had a gap in midfield for carrying that ball forward, and getting up to the strikers, and he's been brilliant at that. But then we were also kind of fortunate to pick up Ollie Norwood in the summer, which he was without a club. He'd been training with us. That happens fairly frequently. We get all sorts of random names popping up at Carrington, and he decided he was enjoying it so much, didn't have any other options. He played a couple of pre-season games as almost like showcase games, and ended up signing. So he's on like a 3-year contract or something ridiculous. Wow. But presumably, that's for our benefit as much as his. I think he's on a decent wage, and it's working out great for him. He's he's not captain, Lewis Bates captain, and he's not, like if Lewis isn't playing, then it'll normally be Fraser Horsfall. So he's not in that captain role, but he's very much directing the play from his position, kind of at the back of midfield. Jack Diamond is really interesting. So Jack Diamond signed with us in the summer. The reaction was very good in terms of there were certain kind of members of the fan base that were prepared for it, shall we say. So we, you know, the Piers Morgan interview, the kind of factual side around what had happened to him, what he'd gone through in the kind of couple of years before he joined. Obviously, he was with you at loan from Sunderland, and he was a player that you could see was kind of lacking confidence. He and like I said to you before we started, I'm quite maternal towards him. He was one of those players that you just like desperately wanted. I've celebrated his first goal like he was my child. I was so proud and so happy for him. And you know, you stand in a crowd where opposition fans have been chanting awful things at him, and there's not been a lot of it, granted, but at least on 2 or 3 occasions the club can't do anything because it's not hate speech or it's not a protected characteristic. And the age that he is, and you know what he's gone through, I just really feel for him. And what's happened since Louis Barry went, well, Louis Barry's on loan from Villa. He was recalled. He's gone to Hull now, since been injured. But that was the kind of opportunity for Jack Diamond to step up and to into that role that Louis was occupying. And he really just didn't. It was never really clicked. He wasn't the full product, if that makes sense, in terms of he'd make the runs, but then the passes weren't completed, or he would, you know, be on the end of balls and shots on goal would, you know, go all over. And what's happened, almost like someone has waved their magic wand over him the last few weeks, and he is banging in goals left, right and centre. And it is just the loveliest thing to see, to watch a player evolve technically, but in terms of confidence. And I sponsor Owen Moxon, and on Tuesday they have a sponsors day for players, and it's the first time that I've spoken to Jack since Pinatar last summer. So, and it was really interesting to see how different he is kind of off the pitch as a person versus how he was then. And you know, I have so much respect for him that he's kept going, and that the club have clearly invested an awful lot of time in him and his like playing development, but probably personal development as well. And honestly, couldn't be happier. I'm just so pleased, and definitely the right time of the season to hit that kind of form. Be interesting to see how he is with you, like against you on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to certainly watching him against us. And like I say, I am glad for him that he has been able to kind of grow in confidence from what you were saying there, not just on the pitch but off it as well. You know what I mean? It's obviously I'm not gonna go ahead and kind of pass comment or anything like that on everything that did go on, but of course it was clearly a very, very difficult time. And I think when it kind of came out, it seemed as though it was also hanging over him during his loan spell at us as well.
Yes.
So I guess we never really saw him with the true level of kind of freedom, because if you don't have it off the pitch, you're never going to have it on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to be able to see somebody like that hopefully thrive elsewhere. And that's the one thing I do like, as I'm sure you do as well, even if players don't necessarily make it
100%
with your club, it's still really nice to see that actually it also vindicates the decision to sign a player in the first place if they then can go on and thrive elsewhere.
Yeah.
There's still that kind of a player in there, and obviously that's just a generalization, but then when you put it into the context that Jack had at the time, of course, it kind of paints a whole different story. But no, I'm really glad to hear that he's doing really well. Now, I just want to I'll give you a little heads up now. The last question we normally ask on the preview is, of course, score prediction. But I just want to put one thing to you before we get to that, because you have obviously done lots of EFL work over the past few years. I know you used to work with Gaz on the Real EFL, and obviously there was podcasts and such that you would do lower league look, for example, which may have been a little bit more League Two focused, but obviously you focused a bit on League One as well. I want to know from the outsider's point of view, your view on Lincoln, where we are now, what you perceive our season to have been, and where you see us going, because it's always a nice kind of outside look on that.
I wasn't surprised that we lost in October at all. I mean, obviously being kind of Lincoln adjacent for a good few years, it was one of the clubs that I knew more about in League One than a lot of others. And I think like very solid League One club. In my head, you're always just a little bit outside of the playoffs. And I guess my question back, which you'd have to answer now, would be what you think you need to do. Because obviously, you had a bit of a kind of not no striker, but a bit of a kind of striker deficit. Obviously signed in January to compensate for that, but it's been Ben House throughout the season that's been scoring the goals, who I know isn't a kind of a nice midfielder.
It's sort of a striker to then Mark Kennedy tried to make him an 8, now plays as a 10.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So
but I think that's like very solid League One team, but I would say as an outsider, not seeing the progression that I maybe would have expected. You see teams kind of incrementally creep up. One really good example, not even because of budgets, like Leyton Orient is a great example. Came up like steady, pushing for playoffs. Now, is it what do you think you needed to do differently this season to kind of build on last year that I may be missing?
Yeah, so obviously last year, the thing that we needed to do, like halfway through last year when we were kind of on a bit of a poor run, was get rid of Mark Kennedy. That happened. And then obviously Skubala came, and we were obviously just so close missing out on the final day to the playoffs. Yeah. And then I think this year, I think when you kind of put it on the balance of this year to last, it's actually not that dissimilar. But obviously, I think that the league probably did get stronger, and also we maybe should have progressed more than what we did. I think it's really difficult in this division, and I think especially this year, because we've got our people call it an excuse, and it is an excuse, but it is. Last year we were 12th place budget in the league. This year we're 19th place budget in the league, and we increased our budget by over 50%.
Yeah.
So it's. When you kind of look at that, I still see this year as progression on last, because although it's not in league position, in terms of the amount of league positions that we've overachieved from our budget table position, we are better this year, which then I'm kind of hoping that next year, when maybe a few other teams end up leaving the division, for example, even a Burton Albion, who are outspending us, if they end up getting relegated, then that's another team that we're not quite fighting. Obviously, the likes of Bradford come up, they'll spend as well. You know what I mean? But
they'll just buy all of our players. That's what's happened this season.
Well, it's working for them so far.
And again, like that's part of my investment in it. Yes, I want Bradford to come up, but I also want Sars and Neil Byrne, and there's a couple of loan players that we've had that are now there.
Yeah. So I think. From my kind of point of view of it, we have progressed, but I also see that we need to, within the next year or two, we probably need to be fighting to get out of this division. Otherwise, we are kind of then trapped in a circle, and then suddenly, it can just turn a little bit, because if you're here for 10 years, you're probably more likely to go down than you are up. All you have to do is look at Shrewsbury as kind of the perfect example of that. And I said a few years back, I said, I almost guarantee it that we will be in the Championship before we're next in League Two. But that, that has probably got to become a point where that is sooner rather than later.
I think the difference this season as well is, or next season versus this season, is you had us and Wrexham come up that, again, have decent budgets. Wrexham slightly bigger than ours, but still substantial for clubs coming up, and both got very wealthy owners, whereas coming up next season, you've potentially got Bradford, Port Vale, yes. But Donny, Walsall, they have.
They're just not the same.
No. So it might be, slightly less competitive, but then who knows who we're getting down? Plymouth, Derby.
And we'll still have Huddersfield in the league. We'll still have Bolton in the league. We'll probably could do another big crack at it. And we will have, at least 2 of yourselves, Wickham, Wrexham, Charlton, So no matter what, it's still going to be a strong division. It's just probably a slightly different division to what it is this year, which is probably
you likely will have us. Our playoff record is atrocious. I am carrying some very deep scars.
I'm starting to realise that actually,
we're going back to the 90s. I've seen County win at Wembley once and that was in 2008. I've seen us lose twice in the Autoglass trophy, and then playoffs twice against Burnley or Barnsley. I get the 2 mixed up. It's an affliction. I can't and then Carlisle 2 years ago. So I am fully expecting playoff defeats.
But either way, you can at least enjoy, at the bare minimum, an extra 2 matches potentially. Which is.
Although I said it after the Carlisle game that I wished we'd have gone out to Salford, because it was the trauma of it. But I said that this time, if we get to Wembley, I'm going to do hospitality. I'm going to make it more about the experience of the day, so that whatever the result is, kind of. It's just part of it and not the be all and end all.
I did a box at Wembley when we went there for the first time to win the Checkatrade Trophy, and it's a pretty spectacular experience. I will be honest. So I would definitely recommend that one. So I teased it a little bit earlier on. We're looking ahead to next season a lot here, but let's bring it back to Saturday. Put a number on it. Give us a score prediction.
I'm gonna go. I hate predictions. I am also awful at them. And I should say that at this stage, earlier on today, I placed a bet on Lincoln to win. That's not because I'm particularly confident in you. It's because every time I do that, we win. I lose money. It's part of.
You see, I can't do that. I can't do it. I cannot bet against Lincoln. I never will.
Well, it's a win-win situation. I win money or we win. I am losing. I did the same last season. I lost quite a lot last season and was perfectly happy with it. Peterborough, I forgot to place the bet. Remembered, placed the bet, and we scored. There's no messing with this superstition. It is what it is. Anyway, despite that, I would like to think that we will win 2-1.
Okay. So you going for the reverse of the reverse fixture?
I'm going for the reverse of the reverse fixture, but I think in a complete reverse, you will score early and then we will come back.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to go for the opposite. We're going to get an early goal, because you've already said you guys seem to be liking to concede a little bit early at the minute. I'm thinking an early goal. I'm thinking there's a chance that James Collins doesn't start, because he did play. Obviously on Monday, and we're typically not kind of doing start after start at the moment with him. So I'm thinking that we might do an early goal. You guys equalise. James Collins comes on in the 60th minute and manages to bag one more reasonably late on. That would be nice just to cap off. And I think as well, last away game of the season, you want to go out on a high. I remember Gaza Stag 2-1. Obviously, everybody was up there. We'd all been kind of out drinking all day. I was getting the train back to Lincoln after the game, and we had lost 3-2. And I think my trains got cancelled. I didn't get home till about 2:30 in the morning, and not because I was out drinking. So we don't want something like that to be happening to those fans that are travelling. So let's hope for that kind of 2-1 victory. So I'm literally going to go the absolute opposite of what you predicted there. But no matter what, it's going to be a really, really good game. It's going to be a great day for those that do go. And by the sounds of it, it's going to be a few decent food options, just not necessarily the pies.
I mean, the pies are fine. They're just not what they used to be.
Fine isn't good, though, is it? Fine is fine, but it's not good. So, like I say, for those of you that do end up going, enjoy. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. Really enjoyed this preview. And hopefully, from our point of view, we will see you next season. But good luck for the rest of the season after Saturday. And enjoy the game. But that is it for all. Thank you for watching Up the Imps.